Do you think if you'd stayed on, you could have won the next election? Labour could have won with you as the leader?
I've always believed we would win the next election, but the decision about who's best placed to take us into 2029 is a decision the parliamentary party has taken. I accept it in good grace. What is the best thing for the country? What is the best thing for the government? And then the intensely personal, which is, am I going to end my political career?
It's become a poignant pilgrimage for British Prime Ministers entering retirement. And recently, let's face it, there's been rather a lot of them, all to a man beating a path to their friend Volodymyr Zelensky in Kyiv. Here was Rishi Sunak in early 2024, 6 months before he left.
It is an honour to stand with you and to send a message on behalf of the United Kingdom and indeed your allies around the world. Ukraine is not alone. And Ukraine will never be alone. Putin might think that he can outlast us, but he is wrong. We stand with you today, tomorrow, and for as long as it takes.
Before him, Boris Johnson, a few months after he quit Number 10.
I will do whatever I can. Thank you so much. I really will. I really will. Anyway, thank you.
Perhaps they feel the need, as they contemplate their own political mortality, to summon their inner Churchill, frequently described by Johnson as the greatest Briton of all time. And so today, with grim predictability, it was Keir Starmer's turn.
The mere fact that I'm moving on as Prime Minister does not mean that I lose any resolve on my own part to do whatever I can to ensure that just and lasting peace comes for Ukraine as quickly as possible.
And I think that we build strong relations with all the leaders of the United Kingdom during this period of time. And I really count that I will build new strong relations soon with a new Prime Minister.
Touchingly, the Ukrainian president, facing a spot of trouble after mysteriously dismissing his defence minister, handed Starmer a gong, the Order of Freedom. He's only the 90th person to get it. Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak were numbers 75 and 76, respectively. So it's a much more exclusive club than the Legion of Honour bestowed on Starmer this week by his mate Emmanuel Macron. On average, around 12 people a day get one of those. But there's no doubt the bromance between Keir and Volodymyr is real and it's special. They hugged after Zelensky's Oval Office showdown last year. An emotional moment Keir even name-checked in his farewell to all that in the Commons this week. And it's a relationship that began when Starmer was a mere opposition leader back in 2023. He promised Zelensky that in government he would continue the UK's staunch support for Ukraine. And while he's found himself unable to keep a fair few promises to the British people, on that at least, he has delivered. Hello and welcome to Thursday's show. Rachel Millward, Deputy Leader of the Green Party, and former Conservative Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng are with us on the sofa tonight. But first, we're starting tonight with Keir Starmer's final broadcast interview. The outgoing Prime Minister is in Kyiv for his last international trip as leader. Our political editor, Beth Rigby, is travelling with him and sat down with him a little earlier.
Prime Minister, you're here in Ukraine today. This is your last big act as Prime Minister. What's your message to President Zelensky as you prepare to stand down?
My message to President Zelensky is one I delivered at the press conference, but I'd also delivered privately to him. And that is that the UK commitment to Ukraine will not waver. We will be there for as long as it takes and a long time afterwards. And it was really important as I stepped down that I told that to President Zelensky. And I wouldn't have said it publicly if I hadn't had the opportunity to talk it through with him privately. And I'm absolutely confident that the UK support will not waver. And he really needs to have that reassurance because, of course, the relationship between the UK and Ukraine has been very strong since the outbreak of the conflict. It's been particularly strong in the last 2 years. And I have got to know him. We've had a personal friendship, a very closeness in terms of his thinking, how he's approaching the conflict, the decisions he takes. I wanted to and did give him that reassurance.
Because he said in the press conference, didn't he, He said, I'm afraid of the change.
Yeah, I think what he means by that is there's a degree of uncertainty, but he needn't be. I really am clear about that. I wouldn't have given that reassurance if I wasn't absolutely sure in my own mind. This is far too serious for that.
So,
and therefore, I'm absolutely clear the relationship between the UK and Ukraine will not waver in any way whatsoever.
So, PM, you've always said recently that you will not offer advice to your successor.
No.
But you are sending a message to your successor here.
No, I'm not. No, I think that the UK support for Ukraine is deep in the psyche of the British public.
Yeah.
If you go around the country, we've got Ukrainian flags on churches, on town halls, in people's gardens. These are voluntary acts by the British people. We've managed to achieve unity across the House of Commons from the start of the conflict, and therefore I have no doubt about the future. And this isn't, I'm not in the business of sending advice or messages to my successor. I will give him my full support.
But have you had assurances from him?
Well, I would not have said what I said to President Zelenskyy, which is really important, if I wasn't confident about what I was saying.
Okay.
And that is really important. I'm not somebody else's spokesperson. I'm not telling somebody else what to do or offering advice. But this conflict is serious.
Yeah.
This is about values of democracy and freedom, values that are really important to the British. And I would not have given the assurance I did give if I wasn't 100% confident about it.
Okay. And you also said something you haven't said before today. You said you now believe Ukraine can win this war. You haven't said that before.
I believe Ukraine will win this war. I think that the last 6 months have been a real turning point, because at the beginning of the conflict, everybody assumed that Russia would win within a matter of weeks. We are now in year 5, and what has happened in that time is Ukraine has begun to push back on the front this year. Medium range and long range missiles have been used to great effect. The economic sanctions have had real damage to the Russian economy, the work that's been done on the shadow fleet. But the other reason I think we sometimes miss this is that one of the consequences of 4.5 years of conflict here in Ukraine is they now have one of the most effective, efficient military forces anywhere in Europe. They're tech savvy, they've got incredible skills on the front line. Their drone warfare has gone from, I remember the early days seeing their capability to now world-leading capability. And what they've shown is that it's not just the size of your army, it's how you fight a modern conflict. And so they are probably the most effective fighting machine in Europe.
Yeah,
that is what 4.5 years. So they will win this conflict. They will get the justice.
When will they win this conflict?
Well, I don't think anybody can put a date on that, but it's significant that this year the mood has changed in Moscow, actually across Europe. One of the reasons I genuinely believe that we've had such strong statements coming out of the G7 meeting, the global leaders meeting a few weeks ago, and out of NATO more recently, is because across the world people are beginning to appreciate that actually the tide is turning and Ukraine will win this conflict, and quite right too.
PM, you've spent a lot of time on foreign affairs. You care deeply, clearly, about Ukraine. You've worked very hard with Zelenskyy and Macron. You're clearly leaving office before you are ready. You would not have chosen to go now. Why have your MPs rejected you after such a short time? Well,
the way I look at this is not just the 2 years we've had in government, but the 6.5 years that I've been on the front line. I took over the leadership of the Labour Party early in 2020. We had just lost the 2019 election. That was the worst election result for the Labour Party since 1935, and most people thought the Labour Party is finished, it'll never win again. And even those that were a bit more optimistic said, if they do win again, it'll take 10 years. I'd never believed that. I turned it around. We ripped out anti-Semitism. We forced the party to face the country. And we began to make real progress. Begrudgingly, people said, well, you might win, but it'll be a coalition because you won't get a majority, and we got a landslide victory. So for the parliamentary party, the question, who was the right person to save our party, to take it to victory in a general election and the second biggest majority ever of a Labour government. That's answered. I've answered that question. They're now asking the question, who's best to take us into 2029? Yeah. They've given the answer to that question.
Do you agree with the answer?
I accept it. I accept it.
That's a different answer to
I accept it, but I accept it, and this is really important, with good grace.
Yeah, I said that.
And therefore, from the moment I took the final decision, I have not only done it in good grace, I've done it trying to ensure that there's an orderly transition and that my successor can succeed. And I believe that to be true. I think we've built strong foundations, a stable economy, which it's impossible to imagine that we've done in 2 years, much stronger public services, huge measures on child poverty. We'll do more on child poverty than any government, including a Labour government. We've done more on defence and security. We've enhanced our international reputation. Now that is a sound foundation to go on and win in 2029. And amongst the reasons that I accept the decision of my parliamentary colleagues, I'm going in good grace and want to support what comes next is I believe in my country, I want my country to thrive. And in the end, I've said in many interviews with you, country first, and I mean it and I'm going to live it.
Do you think if you'd stayed on, you could have won the next election? Labour could have won with you as the leader?
I've always believed we would win the next election, but the decision about who's best placed to take us into 2029 is a decision the parliamentary party has taken. I accept it in good grace. And I look on the 6.5 years to have taken my party from near oblivion to the second biggest landslide victory and to have built 2 years solid foundations for our country and to leave the country in a better state than I found it. I'm proud of that, and I will now happily spend more time with Vic and the kids. I leave probably the most high-profile job in the country, the most important, which is to be the best dad I can to my kids, the best husband I can to my wife, and I'm looking forward to that.
And I want to ask you about Vic and the kids in a moment, but Morgan McSweeney, your former Chief of Staff and your campaign manager who helped win that landslide, he said that we didn't prepare enough for office. Do you agree with that?
I agree with Morgan on many things, but not that.
OK.
And if you look at what's happened in the 2 years, the economy was broken when we inherited it. It is now stable. Even the figures that have come out today on growth are better than expected. We've got the best growth in the G7, and we've stabilised the economy, even though we've got the conflict in Iran going on. Our NHS has got the fastest drop in waiting lists for 17 years. Child poverty will be record numbers that we're lifting out of poverty. And internationally, nobody could argue that we're not in a better place. And therefore, that's not just a plan, that is a plan being implemented. None of these things fall from the sky.
When I hear you talking about your achievements as a Labour leader and then Prime Minister, it must hurt to have to leave.
Look, it's a very difficult decision to decide to end your political career. Of course it is, and I'm not going to sit here and pretend otherwise. And what I've had to grapple with is the question, what is the answer of my parliamentary colleagues to the question about 2029, and accept that. What is the best thing for the country? What is the best thing for the government? And then the intensely personal, which is, am I going to end my political career? That, in the end, becomes something which, for all the discussions with parliamentary colleagues, teams in Number 10, my parliamentary and political team, in the end, for me, it may be different for other people. It boiled down to a deeply, deeply personal decision. Am I prepared to end my political career? And I've answered that question. I answered it having spent the weekend with Vic and the kids, and only the Vic and the kids.
But you said to me a year ago, we were doing another interview ahead of elections, and I was asking you about Nigel Farage, and I asked, how would you feel if he beat you? And you said, I hate the thought of losing to anyone,
Yep.
I mean, your own side, your opponents. It's hard for you.
It is hard, of course. I mean, I do hate any time when we don't win, but it's very important to look at the last 6.5 years as a big win, because taking the party from near oblivion, possibly never winning again, to winning a landslide victory and then putting in place the foundations of a better country, leaving the country better than you found it, which is the test of any Prime Minister. I'm proud of that. That is a win. I will now go on and spend time with Vic and the kids, and that's really important to me.
I want to come to this because in June at the G7, you were so clear to me. You said, I'm not going to walk away, I'm going to fight. And then less than a week later, you announced that you were going to stand down. I really believed you at the G7 that that's how you felt. So what changed in those few days? I
had to reflect on the answer my parliamentary colleagues have given on the question about who should lead us into 2029. And I felt that it was right to apply the same principles I've always applied, which is what is in the best interest of the country. How do I ensure that we don't implode into some massive fight in government? And how do I do my bit to ensure that the solid foundation that we have built continues as the basis for that 2029 win by the Labour Party, which I believe it can be.
So you sort of almost had to put your own ego aside a bit in that moment?
I think it was I've always said country first, and I've always meant country first, and that means in the end I felt I had to take the decision of what was in the best interest of the country. And I do that with good grace because that is what I've lived by, that is the right thing to do. But it is also, Beth, something intensely personal in the end because it is a decision to end your political career. And I just needed the space to really think that through. And there's been a lot of noise around me, a lot of people having a lot of conversations.
It must have been intense.
I needed just to be on my own with Vic in particular, our kids as well. And they were the only people I was with that weekend. I didn't speak to anybody else pretty much that weekend.
I was trying to phone everyone and no one had spoken to you.
And in the end, it came down to me and my family making decisions.
Can I ask you, what did Vic say to you? Because what did Vic think?
Well, I'm not going to get into the ins and outs of what Vic said, but I can tell you this. Through every step, she's been with me.
Yeah.
The good, the bad, the challenging, the great moments, the victory nights, the really low moments when somebody tried to burn our house down, our family house, when my brother died. The last few months, which have not been easy, but she's been there at my side every step of the way. And so that's why we had to take the decision together. That's the way we will always be. And I do realise how lucky I am to have such a rock. Because there are lots of highs in politics, there are a number of lows, and to have someone by your side who is 100% part of an inseparable team is remarkable. And so, of course, I was going to talk it through with Vic, talk about the pros, the cons, how it left us as a family. But also, I do have to reflect on the fact that 6.5 years on the front line impacts on your family. I've tried so hard for it not to. We've protected the kids. I've tried to make time for them. But there's no pretending that there haven't been, I don't know how many times when I've said, we can't do that, I'm sorry, I've got to do this, or
did the kids want you back? Did the kids want you to come back in that way?
I think they did. No, I don't think they wanted me to stand down, but they wanted me to spend more time with them. But they always have, and I'm always conscious that it's their time that often is given up, and now I can spend more time with them, which is fantastic.
It's also quite an achievement as a parent if your teenagers actually want to spend time with you.
Well, yes, we're still in that space at the moment, but...
I mean, I was going to say, you tweeted on Father's Day, and this was the day before you resigned, being a dad is my greatest joy. Today I'm thinking about my dad and the father I am to my children because of him. Happy Father's Day. And then you spoke about the kids again at your resignation speech. You said being the Prime Minister is the biggest job, but being the father is the most important job. So that came into the decision-making for you.
This is part of who I am. They're my pride and my joy. Every day I take pride in them, every little thing they do. It's a unconditional love for my children. And of all the things I've done in my life, having our 2 children is by far the best thing. It's been a joint project of me and Vic from the very start. When they were born, we looked at each other and said, what do we want for our children? And we decided we wanted happy and confident. And that is all we've set out to achieve with them, that they're happy and confident. And every time I look at them, it gives me such a sort of well of feeling inside. And so to be able to spend a bit more time with them now is a great step forward.
And PM, you're here securing your legacy. How would you like to be remembered?
I mean, in a sense, that'd be for others to decide. But as the person that saved the Labour Party, turned it into a party that could face the public again. And we were a party that were found to be institutionally anti-Semitic, that was not fit, actually, to face the country and the electorate. And we turned that around. And we did that in a relatively short period of time. It was 4.25 years from me taking over as leader of the Labour Party to walking into Downing Street with a landslide majority. That is hard, bloody work. You know, forcing a party to change at pace, to win an election, and then to, in 2 years, to have stabilised the country, to leave it in a better state. And on the international stage, I do think, and you'll have observed yourself at international meetings and gatherings, we have transformed the standing of the United Kingdom, the personal relationships with international leaders, the trust that is now put in the UK, and the sense that when other countries are looking for leadership, they're looking to the UK again. And I'm really proud of that, because I've always felt the UK had a huge amount to offer on the international stage. We're pragmatists, we're leaders, we're able to bridge and bring together. We'd lost that in the last decade. And we've got it back. We've got our mojo back as a country.
And when you walk out of the door for the final time on Monday, how do you think you're going to feel? Is it going to be relief, pride, sadness, a big cocktail of emotion?
Pride, big pride in everything that I've achieved. When I came into politics in 2015, I didn't think I'd be leader of the Labour Party. I didn't think I'd be Prime Minister. That has never been my lifelong ambition. I thought with a bit of luck, Will, when in 2015 I might become Attorney General one day. So this wasn't a great project, but in 2019 it was obvious to me that our party was on the brink, and that somebody had to step up as a sense of duty to the party and to the country. Actually, you need a good, strong Labour Party for the country to function properly. So I stepped up into that space, and having stepped up, I thought, well, I'm not just going to stay here. I'm going to go on and I'm going to win the election. And I never had any doubt in my mind about that. Everybody along the way said, it's not going to happen, you're not going to do it, it's not possible. And every time I said, it is, you watch, we would, and we did. And we won a general election, and I'm very proud of that. So I shall walk out with pride, and I shall walk out looking forward to the next chapter, which is spending time with Vic and the kids, being, as I say, the best husband I can to my wife, who has stuck with me and been with me every step of the way, and it's impacted her hugely, and the best dad I can be to my kids. What a wonderful thing to look forward to.
What, hanging out with teenagers? I mean...
Yes.
I mean... Yeah, no, it is.
You know, look,
it's not. I think it's lovely your kids want to spend time with you.
My son is a fantastic young man, just turned 18, and we do a lot of things together. My daughter is a beautiful 15-year-old, going on 19, who has got her dad absolutely wound round her little finger.
Your dad didn't really tell you he loved you much. You know, it's been widely written about, and you really do want to publicly talk about your kids in that way. Is that really important to you, because you didn't have it?
I was determined to be a different dad than my dad was. It was a generational thing. It was different in those days. He saw his job as going out, earning the money. But also, my mum was so very ill all of her life that she needed my dad to provide so much to her, and he did. And he gave her such sort of unconditional love and support that I don't think he had space, emotional space, for us in the way that he might otherwise have had. We didn't hug. We didn't have the sort of relationship. But I was determined to do it differently with my children. And we have done it differently, and it gives me great joy.
Well, it's good to know that actually after what's been quite a rough few months that you are very optimistic actually about walking out of the door.
I go with pride. I go knowing that I leave the country in a better state than I found it, and I go knowing I've left the foundation for Labour to win the next general election.
Yeah.
And I go out and I will immediately that afternoon spend time with Vic and the kids, and I look forward to that.
So my final question is, as you hand on the baton, you believe that you set Andy Burnham up to win the next general election, and part of the next phase of this administration's success is your success?
I hope so. We've built the foundation for this now, and Labour can go on and win that election. I think we'll go on and win that election. I'm proud to hand over the party in good shape to Andy Burnham, hand over the country in good shape to Andy Burnham. I will support him all the way. I'll give advice if it's asked for, and I'll give it privately. I will not give advice if it's not asked for, and I certainly won't give it publicly. I will give my full support, and that is what I mean. I want my country to thrive, and I'm sure it'll be a great success going forward.
OK, Prime Minister, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Beth.
Thank you.
Rachel Millward, Deputy Leader of the Green Party and former Conservative Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng are on the sofa tonight. Rachel, it was interesting, wasn't it? It's, you know, you could make the quip, Keir today, gone tomorrow. He looked like he had the weight off his shoulders, didn't he?
Maybe. I mean, I actually imagine that's a pretty heavy one. I think that's a tough thing to swallow, and he'll probably have an almighty collapse when because he's, you know, he's a politician and he's a human, as we all are. It's lovely to hear him talking about his family and his wife, and it's, you know, it's almost as if the Labour Party hadn't done catastrophically badly in the elections in May, and actually we're in quite a bad state at the moment. We're giving him the honour of him speaking to us as a human, and I think anybody who has, you know, lost a business, come to the end of a project, had a tough thing, I don't know, being fired after a few weeks in a top job.
Yeah, Kwasi.
Anybody who's been through it will know that's incredibly tough.
You know, I always feel sorry for politicians of any party being booted out, because you do suddenly see them as a human being, and how hard that must be, suddenly losing your job, you know, everybody around you losing their jobs, people's mortgages in jeopardy. I mean, that had a broader point with you, Kwasi, but what is it like getting booted out,
for him,
the brutality?
and it actually was very interesting watching him, because he didn't acknowledge once any mistake he'd made, not once. You'd think the Labour Party was in a wonderful position, even though, you know, they're 10 points, at least maybe 15 in some polls, lower than they were when he was elected. You wouldn't have remembered that they lost 60% of the councillors that they contested just 2 months ago. So you
think a bit more self-reflection?
He gave.
No, you didn't. You took a little while to own up to your screw-ups.
Well, I didn't do any interviews, but afterwards, I actually quite soon afterwards, I said, look, you know, this is what we tried to do. This is where we got things wrong. And I think it was really important for him to do it. But I've seen lots of leaders now, at least 4 prime ministers that I've known well, and Rishi lost in a general election, being effectively booted out by their party or by other circumstances. And they all react, funnily enough, in the same way. They all think that it was other people who somehow did them down. He referred to the Parliamentary Labour Party at least 3 or 4 times.
And he says, I go with pride. Is he right?
He said, I go with good grace at least 3 or 4 times as well. And if you go with good grace, you don't have to say, I'm going with good grace.
Look at me, being gracious.
And I think it's very difficult. I think, you know, a part of him will be very puzzled as to, you know, what went wrong. As he said, he had his 6 years, he got Labour back into power.
Did you? I mean, Rachel just said, you know, you must sort of have he'll have a collapse afterwards. Did you feel that?
The weight of pressure off you is a funny thing, because you just think, OK, what am I going to do? There will be moments when he's expecting people to drive him to, you know, summit meetings, and it'll be a total deflation, you know, because he'll be a normal backbencher, he'll be going back to his constituency surgeries, and that's what his job will be.
Right. I mean, and I remember Tony Blair coming out of government after all those years and not knowing how to use a mobile phone. I mean, it's that, you know, that...
He never sent emails, as far as I know.
Let's talk about Ukraine, because, you know, Keir Starmer going there, you know, making this pilgrimage, as all departing prime ministers seem to do. Britain's support will continue under, his 5th UK Prime Minister that Zelenskyy will have known. I mean, we can be pretty confident of that, can't we, under Andy Burnham?
Yeah, I think we can. And I think there is a lot to be proud of in terms of the support we've given Ukraine, isn't there? And I think we've demonstrated, that we could create a safe and legal way for refugees to come over. They could have the right to work, they could integrate. We've kind of done that incredibly well. We immediately recognised what Russia was doing and supported Ukraine under that attack. I mean, I think what's, again, clear from what's happened electorally is that a lot of people wish that the same principles have been applied to other international situations where Keir has done really not so well. If he responded to the state of Israel and their criminal activity in a similar way.
Which Andy Burnham has said, that was a mistake and, he's going to forge a different path.
That's a mistake. And it was kind of so good to hear that apology. And then at the same time, there hasn't been any indication of an actual change in action.
But in terms of arms sales?
In terms of arming Israel to continue that genocide, in terms of calling it what it is.
Genocide...
What Israel have done with Russia. I mean, Israel was attacked on the 7th of October, and yes, they responded. Now, we can argue that they've over-responded, they've been disproportionate.
And the ICJ...
you can argue that. You can argue that.
So I'm not arguing that over 70,000 people have been killed. No. Over 70,000 people have been killed.
Yes, and you can argue that's a disproportionate response. But you can't
And Rachel, I should say the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, has not formally declared it a genocide.
UN bodies have said... I do know that, but UN bodies have said that it's...
Putin's invasion of Ukraine.
They're different circumstances, but...
one was an aggressor and one was acting in defence.
The reality is that...
That is true, isn't it?
Sorry, I didn't...
One was an aggressor, i.e. Russia, they were the aggressor, and Israel was acting to defend itself.
Again, I think 75,000 people being killed is way more than defending yourself, and I don't really think many people disagree with that.
Yeah, but you've got to accept it started as, Israel came under attack by Hamas.
You've got to understand that, and you could say the response was disproportionate.
Wildly disproportionate.
Yeah, you can argue that.
And actually that UN bodies and Amnesty International and scholars who understand genocide are calling it that. But I also want to say that there's been a huge exodus from Labour to the Green Party, and actually 67% of those people is because of that issue. So it's a massive
and there are a lot of
issue.
complaints about Green councils as a result. So let's not get onto that just now, but let's go back to Ukraine, because Kwasi, you were in the cabinet.
Yeah, I was.
February 2022,
24th of February.
When Russia's full-scale invasion began.
What was extraordinary about it was, I was in cabinet for nearly 3 years, but it was the only time we had a meeting at 6:30 in the morning, because it was kind of live, and we didn't know which way it was going to go. People thought that Putin was just showing strength, that we weren't sure he was actually going to do a full-scale invasion. And then when it happened, the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, summoned the cabinet, and we had a very good briefing from intelligence, from Chief of Staff, military, top brass, about what was going to happen. And actually, very, very early on, it was clear to us in government that Ukraine was actually going to put up a fight. Keir Starmer, in his interview, said everyone thought Russia was going to win very quickly. I think that was right at the start, but very soon, within a day or two, it was obvious that Ukraine were going to put up a fight.
Right.
And here we are, 4.5 years later.
With Keir Starmer saying they could actually win.
Yes, and I think they're doing incredibly well, much better than anyone anticipated.
Let me also cover one of the big stories that's emerged today. While Keir Starmer has been in Kyiv, there's been a string of peerages announced. Sir Sadiq Khan will go to the Lords. He could well become a minister in the Andy Burnham government as a result. So Chris Wormold, consolation prize of being forced out by Keir Starmer as cabinet secretary. I mean, you think the House of Lords should be abolished, and
so did Keir Starmer in 2022. And he actually said
it's going to happen under Andy Burnham
and restore faith in British democracy.
I mean, it is in the manifesto, isn't it?
Yeah, it'd be great. Bring it on. I mean, it's certainly, we do need faith restoring in democracy, and that would be a clear way to do it. It seems ludicrous, doesn't it, that parties can kind of shore up peers to get the bills through they want to get through. It's a very dysfunctional system.
I mean, the counter-argument, Kwasi, is that if you look at the numbers, Labour still lags behind the Tories in the Lords. So Labour's got 216 peers, the Tories have 246. I mean, you've got too many, really, haven't you?
Well, I mean, these are historic appointments.
Yeah, but there's a historic imbalance.
Well, we had lots of different prime ministers who were in power for 14 years, and Labour have done, on this instance, they've got, 2 years in power. So over time,
yeah, but I mean,
they'll redress the balance.
Tony Blair was in power for a while.
But he put loads in, but a lot of them, that was 30 years ago. He got in 29 years ago.
Yeah, and then you stuffed them full again.
No, but he stuffed them. Then you could argue we stuffed them. And what I think, I think there is a role for a second revising chamber. What Keir Starmer's done is completely hypocritical. I mean, let's just sort of
an elected chamber, Kwasi?
I think the appointed chamber is a good thing, because it means that lots of people with experience that necessarily probably wouldn't.
But handing out peerages, he sacked his cabinet secretary and then he gives him a peerage. I mean, that just makes.
Well, that's a customary
thing to rule people who you fired with a peerage.
He's got experience.
If I was fired, I wouldn't expect a peerage.
He's got experience in government, and what I want to point out is his hypocrisy. When we were in government, he said the Tories are just appointing their lackeys and cronies, and this list is full of Labour lackeys and cronies.
Right, and there could be a resignation honours list as well, by the way.
Exactly.
So we'll look forward to that. And the prime ministerial handover is sure to feature on our late-night programme, The Wrap, tonight from 10 p.m. Here to discuss all of today's big stories and the best of tomorrow's papers will be the Eye's global affairs correspondent, Molly Blackall, and The Sun's political editor, Jack Elson. Lots more still to come, because we'll be talking about the next Prime Minister and asking the boss of the British Chambers of Commerce about what they should be focusing on when it comes to the economy. Stay with us. Well, we've heard Beth's interview with the Prime Minister that was, and all eyes are very much now on the next inhabitant of number 10, because Andy Burnham will be confirmed as Labour leader tomorrow before becoming Prime Minister on Monday. So right now we're in the middle of a lot of speculation about who's going to be in his cabinet. The smart money now seems to be that Shevaun Haviland is going to be his chancellor. But away from the personalities, what should this new administration be focusing on when it comes to the economy? Shevaun Haviland, Director General of the British Chambers of Commerce, is here. Well, Shevaun, can I just ask first, is business optimistic or a little bit fearful about this new Prime Minister?
I think business is a little bit eye roll about having another government. They would like a bit more sort of certainty, clarity, you know, planning ahead. But as good business people, we are pragmatic and always optimistic, and we'll take, we'll take what comes.
You'll take what comes when it comes to a wealth tax, new property taxes, you know, equalising capital gains tax and income tax? How does that must give you sort of hives in the middle of the night?
Well, I have just spent 2 days in Lancashire with the brilliant businesses of the UK, every sector, from hospitality and retail to manufacturing to services, and all of them, Cathy, are saying, oh, it is hard. I feel like I'm drowning under a tsunami of costs.
Right.
You know, tax, labour costs, minimum wage, energy bills, you know, it's just really hard. And
the national insurance rise for employers.
So we did some work that showed cost for business has increased 70% in the last 10 years. So they are really struggling.
And you can see that in our high streets.
You totally can. And some of them are saying, you know, sometimes I wonder whether it's worth it. So we have to find a way of relieving costs for business. And that's not just, you know, because it's nice to relieve costs for business. You know, they will use that money, they will literally use that money to invest in employing more people, buying more kit, and that investment drives growth, and that's more jobs, which is more taxes back to whoever's the next chancellor, and that's more public services.
I mean, you've slightly dodged the question, but just to pin you down, wealth taxes, you know, the property taxes, capital gain stuff, you would say big thumbs down for business to all of those, or any increase in the tax burden.
So on a business tax, so if you're a small, medium-sized business owner, some of that will hit you as a personal tax. Those are the wealth creators. Those are the people who are they're not rapacious capitalism. They are literally growing businesses in their communities, employing the young people in their communities, building, you know, giving money back to community, building their environment. They're the ones that are driving the regional growth that the new Prime Minister talks about when he talks about devolution. So let's support them.
Have you had much contact with him or his team, you yourself?
So we, Andy Burnham worked very closely with the Greater Manchester Chamber of Commerce. He knows us well. I've had informal meetings with him over the last few months.
But not since he won Makefield?
No, we have not had a formal meeting.
You're a bit disappointed by that?
No, I think that he's, you know, working out what's next.
What the hell to do?
It's quite a short window for him to do that.
Yeah.
We have obviously, you know, we've sent him lots of great ideas about helping business to grow.
Top of your list?
So top of the list is more helping them trade more, so faster on UK-EU relations. Investment, I mean, we've got loads of money being poured into defence and infrastructure. Let's make sure UK SMEs can really benefit from that. And productivity, so we've got AI arriving big style in our businesses. How can we help our businesses adopt that and people have the right skills for, you know, the next 20 years of work?
I want to just play you a clip, actually, that I think we've got ready now. Let's play it.
Yeah, for that. I don't know why. I just have a feeling that it softens the tea bag a bit and makes it stronger. Might be wrong. I know that will offend a lot of people, but there'll be no legislation to ban that.
So we know that Andy Burnham likes putting milk in his tea before he puts the water in. We've seen him fluttering his eyelashes on socials. We've learnt about the links between politics and football in something he did with Gary Lineker earlier this week. I mean, there hasn't really been a lot of proper scrutiny, either, you know, on this sofa or in other media forums, or indeed in Parliament. How much of an issue is that for business that, you know, you've given him all these ideas, for example, but you haven't really had that kind of scrutiny, you know, details?
Yeah. It's really important that they engage with organisations like ours and our members as soon as possible. You've got to have a plan and we've got to make sure, because we haven't got a lot of time, like the economy is super fragile. Andy Burnham's picking up the same challenges that, you know, the last administration have. Time is of the essence. We've got to deliver on the things that are started and haven't been finished because businesses are struggling. So we need to see that plan as soon as possible. Look, that sort of communication, it's important to have a leader who can and does communicate. He's going directly to voters and business leaders through the media. That's not a bad thing. But let's see what the economic plan is as soon as possible.
So where's the beef, basically?
Indeed.
Right. And you, I mean, I know you've got a line to take on this, but I'm not going to stand for the line to take. The pound rose on speculation that Shevaun Haviland was going to be Chancellor rather than Ed Miliband. Presumably, the pound rising, that's, you know, your business, your members would support that kind of, someone stable and, centrist, not on the left of the party?
Our members aren't really interested in the politics. I'm sorry, Cathy, they're not. They're interested in someone who understands business, or at least gets it. They want someone who takes the manifesto that this country voted in, that had economic growth at its absolute core, and is going to take that and is going to relentlessly focus on making that happen, because that is good for everybody. And we talk about the cost of living, that's absolutely crucial.
Well, he has centre, that's,
But the cost of doing business and the cost of living are the two sides of the same coin.
Right.
And the quickest way to improve cost of living is more better paid jobs, and that's growing businesses.
Will you and your members miss Rachel Reeves or not?
Look, I've worked with Rachel for over 2 years, worked with her before she came in. We work really well together. Of course, I'm hoping that, if she isn't Chancellor, that she, may have another job. And we will continue to work with her and the ministers that move on. But
so you've forgiven her for putting up national insurance for employers?
We have not yet recovered from the national insurance increases.
Right.
As I said, the businesses I met this week have said to me, it's really hard. I'm still absorbing those costs. And I've had to stop recruiting. Last year I recruited 25 apprentices. This year it'll be 1. Right. So it was really bitten hard.
Let me bring in our sofa guests now, because, Kwasi, you screwed up the economy.
This endless litany. What's so extraordinary?
It's true.
The guilt yields.
The guilt yields. You know what you did to mortgages, Kwasi.
All of this.
You were talking earlier about Keir Starmer couldn't accept responsibility.
No, I think we did things too fast. But the idea that somehow the economy is rosy now is complete poppycock. You've had 66 billion tax.
Nobody said that.
Keir Starmer said it.
He said it's the second fastest.
He said it was all of that stuff.
We
were fast growing in 2024. The point that Shevaun made is crucial. Taxes are going to rise. Everyone can see that. In the first year, the first budget, Rachel Reeves put up taxes by 40 billion. Most of that was absorbed by business. Last year, it was put up by 26 billion. The suspicion this year, it'll be another 30 billion or something in that order.
Where do you get those figures from?
Well, I've just done the
out the back of your...
No, I've worked out. I've tried to work out what I think the black hole is, and given the fact that they haven't reduced spending, what the ask might be. But there'll be tax rises. Everyone's expecting that. And it's all very well to say, well, the Tories messed things up. You've got nearly 100 billion of tax rises in the last 2 years. Businesses are really suffering. The national insurance on employees, that increase has killed jobs. Has meant that people haven't recruited enough people. Right. Unemployment is higher than it's been for 10 years. This is a real problem, and I think what Shevaun is saying is being very good advocate for her Chamber of Commerce.
Rachel, I'm assuming you're going to make the case for higher taxes, particularly when it comes to wealth tax and property taxes.
I am going to very much agree with the mood on the sofa about national insurance and about business rates and the way that the taxation system at the moment is unfair, and it really penalises small and medium enterprises and businesses that we absolutely need to support for a thriving economy and for our own well-being.
Yeah, but they'll be hit by the tax rises that you support. For example, equal.
But you're going to tax.
Shevaun just said that.
Okay.
No, not at all. We would take away national insurance. We would make change.
Sorry, the employer's national insurance. You would scrap that.
Yeah,
increase.
definitely. That has been a real problem, and there's not a single small business that we talk to. I run a
wealth tax. Shevaun just said you can't tax the wealth creators.
Wealth creators, small businesses are wealth creators, and I agree. And we want wealth creation, and then we want people to get really proud of contributing to building a better society through taxation. So if you have over 10 million in assets and you get taxed 1%, you are still very, very wealthy.
I can't believe this.
And you can
give... So you're
you
backing small business owners, but when they get really successful, you're going to put a wealth tax on them.
1%. So once those people at home are going, 1%.
And the problem with that is that you're going to see massive capital flight. And
nonsense.
With the wealth,
unproven.
With the wealth
unproven.
Tax,
that's not true.
With the wealth tax, you're going to have an exit tax, because what they can't do is put it on a wealth tax and let everyone leave. So you'll just slam on a tax for people coming out.
That when people make, or if someone's going to make a lot of money, they're thinking about maybe my business will be so successful I'll make multiple millions, and then you say we'd take 1% in tax, and they'll be like,
every year.
I'll change my career options.
I'm going to get Shevaun to arbitrate as a final word on this. This squabbling
For a
duo.
start, most small, medium-sized business owners aren't going to leave the country. They don't want to leave the country. They love their community.
Not like 10 million.
They're part of their chamber. They sit on the board.
She's got a lot of members, Kwasi.
They are staying in their place in general.
Yeah.
And also,
they love their place.
They don't mind paying tax if it's fair.
Exactly.
Because they want to pay tax
you,
that
on the
supports
saying that they
public
want a wealth
services.
tax.
They
I
want-
cannot believe
I am not
that
saying
you're
that.
coming,
I
you're
am
a
not
champion
saying
of
that.
business,
I am
and you're saying that a wealth tax is a really good idea.
Business owners
Kwasi, they want hospitals for their parents. They want schools for their kids. They want
They
roads
want a
without
growing
potholes.
economy and a successful...
You don't get
agree with
a
that
growing
too?
economy if you don't
A
have
growing
basic
economy means we can
infrastructure.
pay for hospitals.
You need
have to have a
economic
growing
growth.
economy first.
Yes.
This is
have
how
to
But
have
you
a
don't
growing
do
economy.
that by taxing really successful people 1%
Do you know
a
what?
year of their wealth.
We're going to get you all back
Let
to
the
debate
rich
this
get richer and
further
richer and
because we've
richer.
got lots more to discuss on this. So thank you very much, all of you, and thank you, Shevaun, for coming and sit on the sofa with this squabbling duo.
Lovely to meet you.
Now, this time last night, I don't need to remind you that we were excitedly gearing up for the big England game. And today, well, it's safe to say there's been a lot of soul-searching. So who better to get a debrief on last night than friend of the show, David Baddiel? I had a chat with him a bit earlier. Take a look. David, you've dialed into a very depressed newsroom. I mean, everybody's sort of got their heads in their hands. How about you? How are you doing?
Yeah, no, I'm pretty depressed. I mean, I'm used to it. We are all used to it. I am older than you, and there has been 60 years of hurt since we last won a World Cup, and it continues. So it felt very familiar. It feels very familiar. But I do have a little bit of rage because, actually, I'm going to name drop, if I might. So I was on Twitter, which I should have been on X. I was on X this morning and last night. It doesn't help, but I was just venting about England and the way they were playing and
They've been outsmarted and they don't...
the way they kind of just pushed back and wouldn't try and take the game to Argentina after we scored. And Martina Navratilova joined in that conversation. And she said, she said this thing. She said, at the top level, playing not to lose loses most of the time. And she's right. We played not to lose at a much too early part of the game. And even if we, the ridiculous thing was, as soon as we started playing in that defensive way, I thought, what's the plan here? That we're going to defend for half an hour and then for another half an hour if we go to extra time. That's clearly not going to work against Messi, and it didn't.
Right. So should Tuchel get the chop?
No, I don't think he should get the chop. I think he made mistakes, and I think he should acknowledge that he made mistakes. At the moment, he's doing a thing of saying, you have to do... I'm doing an impression now. You have to do this, and you have to take responsibility, and it would have been different if... Who knows? I think that because we have defended against Norway and Mexico, the team, and it's part of his responsibility to change the team's instincts, is that, right, let's try and defend, let's bring on Dan Burn and head it away, whatever. But they're too good. I mean, Messi specifically is too good to do that. And so I think we're better off, even if we go down in flames, putting on, Saka, putting on Mainu, who hasn't played at all, putting on Rashford, and trying to take the game to them and hold the ball in their half. Because the best way to defend is not to let Lionel Messi have the ball. The minute you let him have the ball, he's going to punish you.
You've taught me everything I know about football, which is not much. And I've got to say, on the show last night, I said to more than one person, I'm sure, I was pretty sceptical about England's chances. But everybody seemed so confident. Why is that? Is it sort of hopeful expectation?
Maybe a little bit. You get to a semi-final of a World Cup and hope will seep in, and it's the hope that kills, of course. We do also have, I've been arguing presently with some people about, people tend to start saying at this point, England, we're just not good enough, we can't do it at the highest level. These players, they play in the Premier League against virtually these same players, lots of whom play for Chelsea and Man United and Spurs. The Argentina team are not, apart from Messi, who is not some mythical beasts who we never meet and who knows how they play like this. They're not fairy tale players. They play as well at the same level as most of our players. So there's no real reason why we can't win, but we looked so cowed after we scored. It's as if we've never met players like this, and therefore it does make you think, well, we shouldn't have had that hope. You're right.
Yeah.
But I think we went into the game as favourites, you know, and I don't think that was completely wrong.
What's your take on the kind of political row? You know, because I'm always interested in the politics, the Falklands row, the banners, and so on. What's your take on that?
I don't have a take on it, Cathy. I sort of think it's all like it all just gets a bit mad at the end of a football game. I didn't really watch that. I was mainly angry about the game, so I sort of missed the fact that the Argentinian players, were holding up banners about the Malvinas. And frankly, I am so much less bothered about that than I am about the fact that Cole Palmer was left out of the squad, which I feel was the first mistake that was made, that I can't engage with it. People get very angry about the Malvinas. I get angry about Cole Palmer.
Fair enough. Just finally, I've got to ask you, you know, I always ask you, is it coming home? And I'm just starting to wonder whether you're the problem. And you've jinxed it for England. Is your anthem to blame?
All through a football tournament, people in England say that to me, like taxi drivers and people on the street. They shout, "Dave, is it coming home?" And then it really abruptly stops when England go out normally. But you're the last person to do it now for the next 2 years at least. So that's good. Yes, it might be my fault. It might be mine and Frank Skinner and Ian Brody's fault. It might be that the idea that football's coming home, which we've implanted in music in our souls in this country, is a mistake. And so I'm very sorry about that.
Is it time to pension the song off?
I blame Wonderwall. Can I be clear about this? I blame Oasis. It's their fault.
We'll get them on and ask them. David, thanks for coming on the show again. See you soon. Well, Kwasi and Rachel are still on the sofa with us. I've stopped squabbling for now. Rachel, can you agree with David Baddiel that Oasis is to blame?
I think it's David. I was at the pub last night and someone started singing It's Coming Home too early. We were like, don't do it, don't do it.
There you
It's heartbreaking.
What, when they scored that first goal?
Well, even actually
the only
before
goal?
that, strangely. But,
that's
but, yeah,
weird.
it was heartbreaking, wasn't it? Just kind of, we played so brilliantly, we were doing so well, it was so exciting, and then it's just...
I think, I don't know David Baddiel, I've never really agreed with much of what he said, but today, when he said that when we went up 1-0 and were defending for half an hour and they kept attacking, you knew that they were going to score. It was just, there was sort of inevitability about it. And for me, that was heartbreaking, because actually, there seemed to be a switch. And once we scored, we just went into a totally different, very defensive mode. And we weren't really playing our game. And they obviously were playing theirs.
Yeah. Well, thank you both very much. You've been a great team. And they think it's all over. It is now. That's it for tonight. We're back on Monday at 7 p.m. Thank you very much for watching. It's been great to have you. See you soon. Good evening.